Hey guys, it's Goosebumps Completionist, and today I'm bringing you another Goosebumps talk type of video. And today's topic is going to be 5 more urban legends centered around the original Goosebumps TV show. The reason why I wanted to make this video is simple. The new Goosebumps television series on Disney Plus is coming out in a few weeks at the time of me making this video. So I wanted to kind of wrap up the old show and provide at least 15 total urban legends for you. My first video, I did the first 10, and I'll provide a link down in the description and down in the comment section of this video for you to go watch first if you haven't seen it, and then come back to this and get urban legends number 11 through 15. Now, urban legends of the original show have been going around for many years, partly because for a long time there was uncovered discoveries or facts about the TV show. So a lot of fans had speculation. It was often a game of telephone, word of mouth. Somebody starts something off like a theory or a statement. It gets put online or spread around the rumor mill, in some cases, vocally. And then it just spirals out of control and becomes an urban legend. And some of these were more recently put on my attention. Some of these, one in particular, I forgot to even put on my first 10, and I feel so bad. But it is on this video. So 4 of these are pretty much brand new ones that I found that seem to be peddled out there in the community still. And I'm just going to shed some light, whether they're true, mostly true, false, unconfirmed, stuff like that, okay? So without further ado, let's start off with number 11. So number 11 is a more recent one, and this was actually going around on Reddit. I looked at the dates. There were some older ones around the time when Jose Prendez's groundbreaking TV companion book released. So, yeah, this kind of encompasses that. So, the first one is Night of the Living Dummy 1, The Abominable Snowman of Pasadena, and The Thumbprint of Doom are the only known Goosebumps stories option that had considerable consideration of being made, but weren't due to various reasons. I'd say this one is true. Okay, so to run it down, this was already touched on in my very first urban legend I brought up in my first video, but I'll reiterate it here again. Night of the Living Dummy 1 was optioned in season 1, but was scrapped by head show writers Dan Angel and Billy Brown in favor of adapting Night of the Living Dummy 2 instead. The reasons mainly circumvented around both stories having similar plots and Dummy 2 being more feasible to make. For Abominable Snowman of Pasadena, it made it past the optioning phase in season 2, but was scrapped due to clear budgetary issues in adapting the script they settled with. And for The Thumbprint of Doom, it was given to one of the head writers of the show named Neal Shusterman to adapt in season 3. Shusterman was given the choice to do The Thumbprint of Doom or Awesome Ants. Shusterman ultimately settled with Awesome Ants, leaving The Thumbprint of Doom unadapted, meaning some to believe that if season 4 was a full season, The Thumbprint of Doom would have been on there. So, yeah, all of these are true, and in terms of what episodes the showrunners have talked about, or the producers, writers, whatever, these 3 are the only ones that seem to have concrete, times, or a couple people backing this up. In the case of Night of the Living Dummy 1, it seems like, due to the verbiage used, they had a script for it. And they also had a script for Dummy 2, and Dan Angel and Billy Brown looked through both and said, hey, we're going to do Dummy 2, and just tossed the script out for Dummy 1. So, that seems like Dummy 1 was actually optioned at one point. The Abominable Snowman of Pasadena, for it to be scrapped due to budget, I would feel like you would have to have some type of concept script at least made for it. And from the verbiage I saw people discussing it with, it did seem like they were going to go ahead and make it, but they hit a snag at some point of the production process due to budget, and they had to pull it. So, yeah, it seemed like Snowman of Pasadena was going to be optioned, or actually was optioned. And The Thumbprint of Doom, it was definitely on the table to make. It was up to Neal Shusterman to make that or Awesome Ants, and he chose Awesome Ants. So apparently they already had an idea that this was going to be made. I think they went to him to write the script or finalize the script. I don't know the full details on where it was in the process, but maybe they had an outline done or something. I don't know. But Shusterman did choose Awesome Ants over it, meaning that the Thumbprint of Doom possibly could have been made at another point. So out of all three that seemed likely to be made, you can kind of add this on there. I think it would have been the Thumbprint of Doom. Now, I have heard people mention the horror at Camp Jelly Jam before, and that might make this legend mostly true. Maybe at one point the horror at Camp Jelly Jam was legitimately optioned. There is speculation about a few other stories that possibly could have been that just haven't made their way to the surface. But as of now, I would say that this legend is true. That Dummy 1, The Abominable Snowman of Pasadena, and The Thumbprint of Doom are the only known Goosebumps stories to be optioned with considerable consideration, but weren't made due to various reasons. So, that's number 11. Now, number 12, this is more of a recent one, and the only reason why I included it on this is because I went to Reddit to see if anybody else was talking about it, and it was brought up a few times. There's some consternation about this, so might as well share it with you. And number 12, Neal Shusterman, one of the head writers of the original show, wrote or helped write the Haunted Mask 2 episodes in Season 2. This one is unconfirmed, and what sparked this was my ranking of the R.L. Stine specials. I said that Neal Shusterman wrote it, and I was talking in the Discord, and Spongy corrected me, saying, no, Dan Angel and Billy Brown wrote it. Well, I checked the back of the VHS and the DVD copies, and it said Neal Shusterman. So, on Reddit, I kind of pieced together this speculation, right? So the legend goes, the two-part R.L. Stine special, The Haunted Mask 2 from Season 2, had Dan Angel and Billy Brown credited on screen as the writers of the episodes. However, the VHS and DVD release of Haunted Mask 2 credits Neal Shusterman as the writer of the two-parter. It is speculated that the credit on screen for Angel and Brown, or the credit on the home media releases for Shusterman as the writer, is actually an error. But there is a possibility that all three co-wrote the episodes. Just there isn't a source that confirms if it was the case at all. So, this one is just more so possibly rooted in error on the home media release front. I know Neal Shusterman did have his name included on some of the old VHS tapes for some episodes that he wrote. And I'm wondering if there was a copy and paste mistake, where maybe they just took the credits, try to change up the font and or the names on the credits and just go with that. But it was repeated a second time on the DVD itself, which makes it seem like it could be just laziness and they're just reusing old things they have on file, or there is a possibility that Neal Shusterman actually wrote the episodes. But it is true. It is true when you go to watch this two-parter. You go into the opening credits on both episodes, and they say the writers. It says Dan Angel and Billy Brown. So maybe the show, which came before the home media releases, might have been mistaken. The only reason why I think this legend has some sort of credibility is that the stuff on the back of the DVD and VHS is an official file, probably at the headquarters of 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment, meaning that this is what they have on file. They don't have Dan Angel and Billy Brown as the writers; only the credits of the episode does. So, who do we go to trust? IMDb also kind of makes it weirder because they're going off what the episode says, not what the physical release says. So, it could be one or the other. One's wrong, one's right, or it could be actually that maybe they helped write it together. I don't know. This one's up in the air. All it would take is a confirmation maybe from Neal Shusterman just to see if he actually wrote it or not. So this one would be solved with a simple tweet or something. Alright, so there's that. Now, number 13, we're starting to get kind of spicy. I'm not trying to call anybody out, but I have seen this one peddled on YouTube by certain YouTubers. And we'll go ahead and go into it. So number 13. the Cuckoo Clock of Doom episode was not released on DVD due to changes in its 2003 reprint. This one I would say is rooted mostly in truth, but it's actually unconfirmed and most likely false. So it's all over the place with this one. The Cuckoo Clock of Doom was one of 3 episodes that never saw a DVD release in North America during 20th Century Fox's home media line of DVDs that ran from 2002/2003 until around 2008 and 2009. So the theory goes, the most recent release of the Cuckoo Clock of Doom's book around that time would have been in the 2003 reprint line of books that lasted until Scholastic released classic Goosebumps around the years of 2008-2009 range. And because that updated release changed the date of birth for the main protagonist Michael Webster and his sister Tara, Fox and Scholastic saw an issue releasing the episode made in the 90s on DVD because the episode used the character's former date of birth. This one seems kind of plausible compared to the next one, which is closely related to this. If you don't know the history behind this, there was technically 5 episodes in total not put on DVD release in North America. It was the Haunted Mask 1 2-parter, Werewolf Skins 2-parter, and the Cuckoo Clock of Doom. Now, there's no real legend or speculation as to why Haunted Mask 1 never made it on DVD. A lot of people just chalk it up to they were eventually going to get to it, but they pulled the DVD line. Or there is this wild theory that maybe they were making VHSs somewhere else in the world and there was some consternation about releasing it. But I didn't feel like mentioning that one because that one just doesn't seem to be a popular idea. But for this, Cuckoo Clock of Doom not being released because of its 2003 reprint, I do think if the goal was in this DVD line to actually help sell the 2003 reprints, this would be one of those things that would be a continuity issue in the book. But the reason why I think this is mostly false, and I guess unconfirmed, is if you look at the episodes comparing them to the books, they're most of the time not exactly like the books whatsoever. There's mostly changes in there. And the Cuckoo Clock of Doom's change is just the date of birth they were born. And that's one of the least egregious changes I can possibly imagine to why the company wouldn't want to release it on DVD. It just doesn't really make much sense to me. But I do think that might play a role in maybe. Most likely not, but you can't really discredit it. There's no real known reason why. I've often speculated that Werewolf Skin and Cuckoo Clock of Doom would have been put on its own DVD, and then Haunted Mask would have gotten a release finally as a bind-up with Haunted Mask 1 and 2. But never happened. So this legend is, like I said, unconfirmed but most likely false. Okay? Which leads us into number 14. Another one of these unmade DVDs in North America. The 2-parter Werewolf Skin was not released on DVD in North America due to its reprint going unreprinted in the 2003 line of books. This one might be mostly true, but this is actually probably false. Werewolf Skin was one of the episodes that never saw a DVD release in North America during 20th Century Fox home media line of DVDs that ran from the 2002-2003 time period until around 2008 and 2009. Around that time, Scholastic released a line of original 62 reprints that spanned from 2003 until around 2008. There were 5 unreprinted books during that time: The Phantom of the Auditorium, Legend of the Lost Legend, Werewolf Skin, I Live in Your Basement, and Monster Blood 4. So the theory goes, since Werewolf Skin was unreprinted in the line of reprints, Fox and Scholastic saw no need to release the 2-part episode. However, Phantom of the Auditorium was amongst the unreprinted ones, and had its episode released with the Attack of the Mutant later on in the DVD release cycle. Which makes the assumption that Werewolf Skin's episode not getting released due to not having a reprint most likely true in idea, but false logistically. So, essentially the argument is Werewolf Skin's 2-parter wasn't put on DVD because it was a part of the unreprinted 2003 book line, right? In case you don't know, Scholastic did omit 5 books, and I mentioned which ones they were in that brief synopsis. There were 5, right? And only 2 out of the 5, which were Phantom of the Auditorium and Werewolf Skin, got episode adaptations. Now, if Phantom of the Auditorium never got a DVD release, I might be more inclined to believe this. But since it ended up getting one, I just don't think that this is true. Honestly, I don't think it really would have mattered. Maybe you can throw the argument that Scholastic allowed Phantom of the Auditorium to get put on Attack of the Mutants DVD later on in the DVD run because it was getting close to Classic Goosebumps. Maybe they knew that they were going to be making Phantom of the Auditorium in that first line of Classic Goosebumps reprints. Fair argument. But that's not proven. That's never been said or explicitly said. So just the act of Werewolf Skin not getting made because it went reprinted, I think is just inherently false. On the grounds that just because it wasn't in the 2003 reprints. We saw Phantom of the Auditorium get made. Makes no sense. So, that's just the logistics behind that one. Okay? Does not make sense logistically. Okay? But number 15, the last urban legend for this video, is probably my favorite one. And this is the one that I thought should have been on my first video, but wasn't. And this one's a spicy one, because a lot of people still talk about this. This is probably the most fun one of this whole video. Okay? So number 15, One Day at HorrorLand Part 2, the second part to the two-parter One Day at HorrorLand in Season 3, took heavy inspiration from Spin the Wheel of Horror, a short story from the first tripleheader book, implying that Spin the Wheel of Horror might have at once been considered to be put in the show, but the showrunners fused it together with One Day at Horrorland instead. This is unconfirmed, actually, believe it or not. While it's not confirmed if Spin the Wheel of Horror was ever considered to be made for the show, speculation proves fruitful to this legend. Tripleheader Book 1 that contained the story released the same month as the One Day at Horrorland two-parter in late 1997. The plausibility of the showrunners gaining access to the story prior to the book's release was very high and believable. That aside, there are striking similarities between One Day at Horrorland Part 2 and the Spin the Wheel of Horror short story. Both involve a family of 4 looking to have fun on vacation and ending upon a game show of creepy proportions. The families are both subjugated to monster hosts, a monster audience, and horrific challenges. While there are more overt differences in both stories as well, this legend lives on mostly due to the two having almost identical concepts and premises. So, essentially the runaround with this legend is that Spin the Wheel of Horror, which is an unconfirmed optioned story that they might have considered making for Season 3 in Ultimate Goosebumps, had its concept blended in with One Day at Horrorland because they knew they were making One Day at Horrorland Part 1 and Part 2. And, you know, I've talked to people about this, and they seem to think that they could not do everything in One Day at Horrorland's book. Part 1 had most of the doable stuff in the episodes. But Part 2, you can kind of have the ending or something similar to it there, but you need something to facilitate the rest of the minutes. So they had Spin the Wheel of Horror, and the idea is that they took the concept and just worked it into the One Day at Horrorland story, themed it around One Day at Horrorland, changed some things up, inserted some things from scratch. That's why we got the commercials and the random new ending that we got, because they had to create a new story from scratch, essentially, right? So, I think this one's plausible. I do think it's very plausible, but like I said, it's unconfirmed. I mean, it's not that far of a stretch to compare the two and see that they have almost identical concepts. I mean, it really is the case. Now, some people have tried to discredit it and say, oh, they wouldn't have considered triple header stories for Season 3. But triple header released in late 1997, the first book, where this story was included. It was quite often that the show, when they would film probably from April or May until maybe June or July, they would have these stories well in advance. So I think this one has some credit to it. I want to be shocked if it actually was the case, true, but I also want to be shocked if it was false either. So yeah, that wraps up the urban legends from the original Goosebumps TV show. My next installment for this urban legends series is going to be centered around the books, and there's a lot of them that I'm trying to weed through. It might have to be 2 parts. I think there might be 20 total. I have to go double check. But stay tuned for that in the near future. Let me know down in the comment section, what do you think about these urban legends? If you've seen the first video, let me know on that video too. If you haven't watched it yet, what did you think about those? Let me know down in the comment section as well. Did I miss any? Do you know of any that I should include maybe in another future installment, potentially? I don't know. But as of now, I think I'm done doing urban legends for the original TV show. So, hope you enjoyed the video, and have a nice day.